Alright, so we're through to the creme de la creme. Game 7 in the best of 7 for the grand final of round 3 of the Golden League 2. I think it's originally 64 player competition, but it's been stretched to like 70 something because of all the people that have had to pull out and other players that have had to attend in their wake. So got Marine Lord here picking his 4th civilization of the series in Abbasid Dynasty, having fielded 2 games as Chinese, 2 as Rus, and 2 as Malians. And he's going for the water. We're here today on Baltic, which would be known as Mediterranean in Age of Mythology and Age of Empires 2. His opponent today in the yellow trunks, over here, as his 7th Mali pick in the series. Come on, man, do you know how to play any other civilizations? You've got Beastie here, having fought back very hard, actually, considering Marine Lord took the opening 2 games and led 3-1 after game 4. Beastie's locked things up at 3-3 here. So our players are going to be going for their docks. Beastie looking to go for that pit mine. I don't need to explain the pit mine mechanic for the 7th time in a row, do I? But an Abbasid pick. This is something a little bit refreshing. The House of Wisdom going to be the one landmark other than the original TC here for Marine Lord. And he's got a variety of different builds to go from out of it, because he can just pick 3 out of the 4 wings in it in order to, you know, pick one of them to age up. Ultimately be left with 1 wing he can't touch, but the other 3 he can get a bunch of unique techs from. And prior to Mali, Abbasid was probably the most unique civ as such, just because they had so many unique techs, and still do, over all the other civs. But Malians, really refreshing changes to the tech tree in their civ, and overall they seem to be the strongest civ to play. I mean, Beastie's willing to play them 7 times in a row in a grand final, so I think that speaks for itself. So players just doing their fishing, doing their bit. Marine Lord's actually going to go for a defensive outpost. He's nearly finished it, but he's just going to leave it on this percentage, because the thing is, he can actually cancel this or just choose to finish it. Beastie's going to try and kill as many sheep as possible to threaten Marine Lord there. He's not going to want to drop too many of those, just in case he gets pushed off the water here. So realistically, Beastie could cancel this, and the only resources he'd lose is the resources equivalent to how much health damage it's been taken. Unlike a lot of the other games in the series, where the resources you get back is equivalent to how much you've actually built, irrespective of how much damage has been done to it, in this one it's all purely about the damage. So Marine Lord can just cancel that and get all that wood back. Other than a tiny bit from that scout harass, but then, you know, Beastie didn't want to stick around and lose all the sheep. Our players have actually picked the same colour every single game here too. Beastie's always been in the yellow, Marine Lord always been in the red. So they may not be colourblind, but they are boring. Ooh, this is different. Beastie want to go for a quicker age up rather than mucking around with the pit mine. He's going to be gathering gold directly out of the gold vein rather than throwing up a pit mine. He's already gone up to 4 houses around it though, but realistically he's going to need to get up to about 30 pop before he ages. So, and then, you know, on top of this he can just plonk down the pit mine when he needs to later on. Or he might even opt to do it now that he's sort of got the wood gathering to be able to afford it. He's going to go for the Mansa Quarry as well. So yeah, he's going to pull those guys off the gold mine. Pit mine's going to be able to gather regardless of how much gold's on there, or even once it runs out. And back at home here for Marine Lord. He's joining up all of his buildings just to make use of the Golden Age bonuses, because particularly that first one is a huge power spike. Second one's pretty useful, and then third one is another huge power spike. Trade wing first, so this is going to mean that Marine Lord is going to have a couple of traders to run to the trading post over there. You can even park down a market and continue to produce them. And the trade wing actually works as a market drop-off point. So both our players are going to have nice infinite gold mechanics here. Our players looking to commit to 2 docks. Good number of fishing boats for both our players as well. Marine Lord's slightly sneaking ahead in that regard. Well, Beastie's invested some extra wood in houses around the pit mine just to make sure he's getting the equivalent of a relic out of the pit mine. Oh, and Marine Lord willing to lose a bit of gather time to kill those last couple of sheep of Beasties. Just thinking ahead really, because there's plenty of water, plenty of food here to get out of the water. On top of that, deep water fish actually do regenerate food. So realistically, it's an infinite food source if you can get on it and maintain it. But one of these players is eventually going to be forced off the water here. So the dhow and the bagler are going to force back the hunting canoe, but it also means, and we'll see war and hunting canoes now fielded from Beastie. So on top of that, Beastie, well aware that all he really needs is Warrior Scout and a handful of them to start being a real pest to this potential market line. To really dissuade Marine Lord from ramping up the market too quickly there. The war canoe just making it out of that. Beastie even using ships to repair through this. Well, one of the hunting canoes goes down. These ships of Marine Lord going to have to eventually retreat, but not before getting another kill there. One of these traders is really low, so Beastie be eager to try and snipe that, and even try and harass down a second one of the traders. He can realistically fight 1-to-1 Warrior Scout versus Scout extremely easily, considering the damage bonuses. In fact, he's even just going to run in and snipe the caravan, so Marine Lord's going to go for the really distant trade post over this side. It actually means that Beastie has the opportunity to harass it with another Warrior Scout. I think he's anticipating this, or just keeping Warrior Scouts around to try and snipe Marine Lord Scouts, maybe even try and harass one of these villages. And bearing in mind, Scouts regenerate, and most units in the game don't have any form of self-regeneration, except for French Knights. Obviously there are other healing mechanics in the game, but engagement on the water now. Explosive dhow. Demo ship. Ooh. That explosive dhow going down before it can really get any damage off, but both these demo ships are going to be in the same position. Nice micro there by Beastie to avoid the range fire of the dhow. Marine Lord trying to field horsemen, but really against 3 or 4 warrior scouts, it's actually a tough fight for individual horsemen. Beastie actually missing the traders on this side, and these guys are going to get quite a substantial amount of gold, considering it just scales off how far they've got to go, and I don't believe there is even an upper maximum on it. Unlike Age of Empires Online and Age of Mythology, where it does actually cap out after a specific distance, in AoE 4 I don't believe there's any upper limit to how much gold a trade route can take. In saying that, The gold generation path isn't, as the crow flies, scaled distance, like it's direct. Whereas, you know, the caravans, they've got unit collision. They run as the wolf runs, you know. So you have to be a little bit aware of your own buildings and stuff that might slow down your traders. Beastie doing a good job of trying to take as much health off these horsemen without losing any of his scouts himself, because he can always just take engagements at a later stage and ultimately pull out ahead there. Overall, he seems to be creeping ahead on the kill and the army value here. These traders very useful for Marine Lord's eco. Bearing in mind he got them for free with his age up. Nice engagement here from Beastie, forcing Marine Lord to have to idle a lot of workers to take the fight. Otherwise he'd start losing vills. Marine Lord lucky to save that trader there using one of his spears. So good awareness from him as well. This plays among the best in the business at multi-pronged harass and multitasking fights around the map simultaneously. The water, it's a bit of a standoff at this moment. The players just sort of bobbing back and forth in the hopes that they can squeeze out one or two more warships before their opponent can. Just take a nice, favourable engagement here. BC got a couple of demo ships. Doesn't look like Marine Lord does. And that one Spearman not going to be able to pick off any of the warrior scouts, but now with some more of them in the mix, Beastie's going to have to back off here before he loses too much. Demo ships trying to hit from different angles to be a real pest and force Marine Lord to have to keep most of his warships mobile through all this. Does a reasonable job at trying to split them up, but ultimately one of those Bagler does go down. Well, another demo ship destroyed just outside of explosion range. Now Beastie having to back off because of a demo ship. Oh, and that's a really nice hit there for Marine Lord, ultimately getting two war canoes for the cost of one demolition ship. So they are actually cheaper overall at 240 resources versus 160. So even if you can kill a single small warship, it's worth it. And ultimately there's a big hidden benefit or cost with the amount of, you know, splitting up and loss of attack that's going on here for the players that's having to run away from the other's warship. So it's a really nice trade here for Marine Lord ultimately on the water, because I think he was up. I think he was down in terms of the kill value prior to that. And on top of that, one of these pit mines is about to get picked off. Oh, Beastie, a mistake here. He needs to try and get that other warrior scout here in the mix. Marine Lord fighting further and further under the town centre there. He's ultimately got to retreat. Well, amazingly, Marine Lord still has two traders alive. Is he basically running them to the House of Wisdom and then switching which market route they're on? It seems to be the case here. Because, I suppose it's a smart thing to do, because it keeps your opponent on his toes. They've got to constantly switch which side that they're guarding with warrior scouts. In fact, even though Beastie might actually be slightly up in that trade because all those guys are full health and a couple of those horsemen are pretty low. He's, again, for the moment over at the wrong side, because Marine Lord is actually still trading on the top side there. Marine Lord actually finding one of these little lumber camps of beasties here. There's just enough villagers, I think, that they can take this fight reasonably well. A couple of the vills will fall. There should be enough that they can defend themselves, and then meanwhile, Another engagement on the water going down. Only one ship for Beastie really falling there. He should be able to try and surround these horsemen now. So neither of our players really able to commit to Castle Age just yet. They're trying to go for the massive feudal age naval force for the time being. Ah, here we go. Beastie's managed to clean up one of the traders and he'll be bringing down this other. It's really only going to take a spearman to force the warrior scout back. Marine Lord getting a nice little cluster of spearmen now. Trying to send them over to Beastie's base. Get a little bit more damage done. Maybe try and take out that pit mine for good. Just try and delay that castle age. Ooh, but the last of the traders falls for Marine Lord now. On top of that, he's got to deal with a bit more pressure here from Beastie with the warrior scouts. Obviously, a mix of spearmen and horsemen is a very tough trade for the warrior scouts to stick around against. You're mainly just looking to try and deal a bit of damage and back out. Ooh, Beastie going to clean up another villager. Cost of another warrior scout there. A lot of demo ships for Beastie, but bearing in mind the huge navy for both players here, Marine Lords seems to be slightly higher value. The warrior scout engagement there being cleaned up. Well, over here the pit mine's fallen. So Marine Lord seems to be making some headway. He's got a bit more in the way of overall kill value here. It's pretty even in terms of the active army value. He's slightly down on the worker population, but this harass is good. It's been forcing Beastie to have to commit to his own barracks and get early Donso production. Well, early, I say that, we're 17 minutes in the game, but I mean, it is a naval map, so... Again, a couple of warrior scouts sticking around when they probably could have just hightailed it out of there. The village being picked off by Marine Lord. Cleaning up all the houses around that pit mine, so Beastie's going to have to replace them all if he wants to get the full value out of the pit mine itself. So Beastie on a large one over here, so getting 140 rather than 100 gold. Or 102. Oh, but this is great for Marine Lord and not so great from Beastie. A couple of idle demo ships just being caught against the edge of the water there. He's fairly even in terms of military and army pop once again. With Marine Lord seemingly at a bit of an advantage in terms of the overall kill value. In terms of blacksmith technologies, Marine Lord hasn't been able to squeeze anything in here yet, while Beastie has got melee armor and is trying to engage with a huge number of demo ships here, forcing Marine Lord to really have to back it up and split his navy up. So he's going to start bleeding a lot of more expensive warships a little bit earlier than his opponent here. So some of these guys in the back for Beastie need to get a little bit further into the fight. Marine Lord having to try and fight under the dock to get the repair, as well as have some of his fishing boats repair here. Oh, Beastie trying to harass on the land once again. Might be able to get a couple of villages out of this. Marine Lord trying to wall up on that lower side and also trying to push out himself, but I don't think he's realised just yet that Beastie's actually harassing this mill. Marine Lord just trying to turn things around on the water here because he really doesn't want to be fighting at a water eco difference. It's going to be the make or break of this game, but it seems as though he's turning things around on the water at the moment. He's lost a lot of his fishing boats though. So right now Beastie's in a bit of a lead with the eco between that and having sniped a bunch of those villagers, while Marine Lord, you're going to try and tear down as much of this pit mine as possible. Every house is another 25 wood. The pit mine itself 150 and the mining camp 50. So if you can get all that, you not only deny a relic and a half's worth of gold trickle, you can, really force his opponent to have to double down and reinvesting in it. I don't know if this single warrior scout's going to be too much of a hassle for Marine Lord. Or BC able to use his warships to try and defend a couple of the houses on this side, but he's a little bit late to try and save 3 out of 4 of them, really. Because I think Marine Lord should be able to safely attack that one and the mining camp. But for now, he's just going to keep pushing forward to see if he can deal some more damage, because Beastie really doesn't have much in the way of defenders here, I don't think. Beastie, in the meanwhile, trying to seal the deal on the water. He's slightly up over here after that last engagement, I think. So he's got like 25 warships, while Beastie... Marine Lord's really only got about 16, so... Especially if he can just clean all this up, he's going to be well ahead with his food eco at this stage. It'll be much easier for him to get to Castle Age. But in saying that, Marine Lord seems to have the advantage on the land at the moment, forcing Beastie to pull a lot of workers back, and the worker count itself is really evened up now. Beastie's dropped a lot of workers, and his military production is under a lot of threat at the moment. He does actually have a bit of a force here, but he's trying to mass up enough that he can actually push out with this. While Marine Lord now has lost the water, so he's really got to commit to farm eco, try and make sure he stays well defended here. Unfortunately, this huntable for him is close enough to the shore that Beastie can really lock it down with a single warship. So it's looking a little bit neck and neck, but I think Beastie would be quietly confident at the moment because he's got that water eco. As long as he can replace military production here, and the wolf doesn't just eat up all his villagers, although that might take some time. He could be pulling slightly ahead, and on top of that, that military population difference is a little bit inflated, really, because Beastie's going to want to drop a lot of these warships soon, just for population space. Once he's confident he can defend the entire shore from Marine Lord, any excess of these will probably get deleted. And he might hold on to a handful of the demo ships at the shore back at his own base just to protect his own docks. And in saying that, quite a number of these structures of Beasties are being cleaned up by Marine Lord at the moment. I think our players will both be pretty safe in going to Castle Age. The Beastie making good use of some of the war canoes, bringing them back home just to deal a little bit of extra damage to these spearmen. The war canoes in particular, that nice springled damage. Deal an awful lot of damage to these fairly early game infantry units in particular. Beastie just going to try and wall up and put a tower there as well, just keeping track of things. A couple of these structures of Marine Lord's going to be under a bit of threat here. Well, he's having to retreat at the top side, try and kill the warrior scouts and stay out of range of the archers for the time being. Marine Lord, second town center for him, but obviously at full price because he's gone for the trading wing rather than the eco wing, so he can't get Fertile Crescent. I believe he has taken fresh foodstuffs, which is no longer the first tier of technologies for your economic wing. Instead, we've got Fertile Crescent now. A sort of raiding attempt here from Marine Lord, but there's already some Sofa here to help defend this. These guys will be able to clean this up pretty quickly. A heavier class of cavalry. Actually, Marine Lord's gone all the way up to 3 town centre through all this. He wants to play a bit of catch up on the eco, considering that Beastie has that huge water economy advantage over him at the moment. So we've even got some trading ships, we've got 25 fishing boats. So Marine Lord really trying to eco his way back into the game with triple villager production, and he may even look at adding markets at some point later on. I believe going for the trading wing actually makes his caravans cheaper, or are they just cheaper in general on Abbasid? Oh no, they might actually just be cheaper in general on Abbasid. So Farimba garrison now for Beastie. Marine Lord will be eager to try and cut through this wall before Beastie's really able to lock this down. And getting on a second large gold vein for his pit mine will be really useful as well. So good timing here by Marine Lord, picking off that villager. That toll outpost isn't going to finish. He's going to be able to take out the wall. Force Beastie to have to bring something over to deal with this. Add a blacksmith. I believe he already had one over here and it's been destroyed. Yeah, that was the ruins of it. In fact, Beastie's gone with an awful lot of trade ships. He's really switched things from fishing ship to trade ship production there. Be very handy for him because he's getting both wood and gold back out of that. So he can afford to wall up, he can afford to replace all those lost buildings, and he's now in castle, whereas Marine Lord, military wing on the way now, be a little while before he's in castle. And all these warships on the shore proving to be a bit of a pest too. Obviously not the most pop-efficient form of defense, but for the moment it's giving him the value that he needs. So Beastie just trying to be a pest and force Marine Lord to have to attack into him to clean this up, which would then, you know, put him at risk of fighting under the war canoes. Military wing still some time away for Marine Lord at the moment. He's closing that eco gap though. But Beastie's still looking to produce even more and more trade ships through this. In fact, he could even cancel that one queued up there and pop it out of this last dock. So Beastie eager to try and cut through there. Have an attempt at one of these peripheral town centres because they just aren't as solid as your main one for actually defending. You can't garrison as many vills and there's no innate arrow attack. You've actually got a garrison in order to have one at all. So things settling down here, but it's rough for Marine Lord because eventually he's going to have to transition to a market economy a lot earlier than Beastie will have to look at doing one on the land, if he needs to do one at all, considering Beastie's getting an awful lot of wood and gold out of this coastal trade post. Yes, it's not the same distance as, you know, putting a market right in the corner and trading all the way to the far side of the map, but for now it's really helping keep him a little bit up on Marine Lord. In fact, the army value is about 3k resources in favour of Beastie. Even though the kill value is favouring Marine Lord at the moment, it's really been a bit of an uphill slog for him ever since he's lost the water. The archers really only tickling the sofa, even with their veteran upgrade. But Marine Lord able to defend quite well there against a couple of the cavalry. You know, bearing in mind the sofa is still 180 resource units, so the more of those that can be sniped by Marine Lord, the better. On top of that, if he gets a couple of springles, he can start taking out the ships. And they are also a reasonable defense against smaller numbers of cavalry. It's just that obviously against larger numbers of cavalry you want, you know, spears and some crossbows or camels in the mix. And Marine Lord trying to grab some wood and some stone from over here. Possibly going to go for keeps on both sides of his base just to help himself lock things down. Both our players pretty much maxed out now. But all of Marine Lord's archers are actually focusing down the sofa there rather than the archers of Beastie, so on top of that, these spears at least trying to force back the war canoes as much as possible. And there is a Springald on the shore. He's probably going to need another 2 or 3 of them to really deter all the war canoes here. So Marine Lord having to make do with what he's got for the time being. Beastie grabbing Sacreds, and from here probably go to Relics as well. Beastie trying to go for a keep on the Sacred Site and start a, that Sacred Site win. But Marine Lord's going to beat him to the chase with getting the keep up. So Beastie's going to have to try and throw it on the far side, but he does have water, so he's nice and safe doing this. All he's got to do is send a war canoe or 2 and, reroute the villagers over to this side, and he'll be nice and safe. And the single Springald, as much as it trades cost effectively into these warships, not when there's 4 of them versus 1. Marine Lord trying to find a way into Beastie's base here, but he's stuck attacking the wall while Beastie's actually focusing down all his army. He needs to actually turn around and fight. And I think it might be a little bit slow for him to be doing this now. Though he does have the spears to wear out that front line really quickly. On top of that, his own archers just able to focus down Beastie. So I think ultimately he will win that fight, but it could have gone a lot better for him too. He lost 4 or 5 units there that he didn't need to. Or trying to take out that wall. Which is still on half health. More spears. Attempting to take out the war canoe here. Oh, the hunting canoe, sorry. Marine Lord just trying to rally everything together at the moment, it seems. In fact, I think he probably should have just stuck it out and destroyed the hunting canoe, or not engaged it at all, because now he's taken a bit of damage on his army without really even getting any value back out of it. An attempt at trying to fix this hole in the wall not paying off for him as well. It's rough because he's really going to have to try and rally around the long side and keep these boats distracted elsewhere while he patches the hole in the wall. Either that or just start a wall up here, run it along the edge of your farms, but then that just gets so expensive as well. Marine Lord trying to put a keep up on the shore here. I think he ultimately will be able to get it, but now with war canoes, with their cannon upgrade, they're able to deal a lot of damage to shore infantry and even deny that keep. So that's bad for Marine Lord. He wasn't able to cancel it in time. He's got next to no stone left at the moment. Beastie denying a lot of gathering over here, picking off some more villagers. Marine Lord's still up in the worker count, but he's got a lot of idlers at the moment. Beastie gone to Imperial. Imperial on the way here for Marine Lord. He'll be eager to try and get Preservation of Knowledge and play a bit of catch up here. Relieve the pressure on his eco because all of his techs will be cheaper. But Beastie for the time being seems to be picking him apart. He's going to be able to deny the stone outcropping, sorry. And there's still more than enough stone there to actually get a keep out of it. So Beastie keeping Marine Lord busy at the back of his base for the time being. Marine Lord with an attempt on some villagers' lives, but ultimately that does get cleaned up, and Beastie's going to be able to patch the hole in the wall. Beastie's still proven to be a bit of a pest to all these farmers here. Picking on farmers, what do you think you are, an American in the 60s? Beastie, a really aggressive workshop placement. He'll be able to start getting out trebuchets, mangonels, springalds, all that sort of thing. And have them straight over here, right where they need it. And you can try and get the stone for another keep over here, which he's doing a good job of denying Marine Lord of being able to do the same over here. Although, now with some culverins, they've got great range, but they're actually Not the best siege units against buildings. He's going to need to get some bombards out as well. The culverins are just basically an improved Springald, a great anti-siege unit. Now, villagers and culverins against Sofa, this couldn't be a worse outcome here for Marine Lord. You have to try and ferry across some spears as quickly as he can, while his main army is actually just trying to hold off on the lower side of the map. DC tying up the bulk of the army over here, and even then, Archer's not the best against Sofa as well, so Marine Lord just trying to rely on sheer numbers of villagers here and some spearmen, but that's also locking up a lot of his eco. In doing so, he really needs to get some more food here to keep going, and GG. Looks like Beastie is our winner of round 3. 4-3 over Marine Lord after an intense series fighting back from down 2-0 and then 3-1. So well played to our players, and we'll see you in the main event.